Welcome back to Against the Cage. My name is Jake Aryeh. I'm joined by my co-host Erich Richter, and finally, we have got our guy Scott Fontana back in action. Scott, tell us what's been going on in your life.
Well, I'm still bouncing back from a large-scale jaw surgery meant to repair my bite. Everything was planned. Nobody broke my jaw. This wasn't a Colby against Usman situation. I knew this was coming. And fortunately, I'm on the mend. I'm finally back here. Gonna take a little while before I'm back to fully normal. But I'll be honest, there was an ulterior motive for my absence.
What was
You
that?
see, I did not want to be on this program until we finally had a featherweight champion once again.
There we
And we
go.
do.
I love the transition. Just like that, yeah, like as you said, Alexander Volkanovski reclaiming his featherweight title over the weekend in Miami, beating Diego Lopez after Ilia Topuria vacated that 145-pound title. Erich, let's start with you. What did you think about that title performance and this kind of questions that come up after this title performance now that we've got all these featherweight fights that occurred on 314?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? So I had Volkanovski in the main event there, and I thought that Diego Lopez would do a little bit better early and, kind of wilt late. It didn't end up going that direction. I actually thought that Diego Lopez did pretty well as the fight went on. I mean, obviously he didn't, really win too many rounds at the end, but it was just like this is the Volkanovski game plan. This is what he's looking to do every time. It's the jab leg kick combo that he's able to just like deteriorate his fighters to the fighters that he fights against to the point where they kind of don't know what to do, and by the end they can't walk and they can't see. It's really interesting the way that Volkanovski has been able to continue doing it at this rate for so long, and like he's lost to Ilia Topuria, he's lost to Islam Makhachev, and then like even though when you look back at like the Max Holloway fights, like it was like kind of like the same thing. It's very interesting to see Volkanovski still doing it at this rate for so long. Glad to have him back as the champ. And I won some money on it, so it was a good night at the office for me. Scott, what did you think about that fight?
Honestly, it's not that it went like exactly as planned or exactly as I expected, but frankly, I didn't give Diego Lopez nearly as much of a chance as a lot of people were. I tended to agree with you, Eric. I really thought this was going to be a nice, dominant, clear, unanimous decision for the champion coming into the fight. It ended up being a little more interesting than I truly expected because it was starting for almost 2 rounds. It was looking exactly like I thought. Then Diego showed a little bit more fight in him. He does not give up. He impressed me in that respect, especially the fact that he was able to fight all 5 rounds. And I mean, realistically, he won that fourth round too. It was split on the judges' cards, but he won that round as well. This was a nice performance and a loss, but Volk is definitely the best featherweight. I truly felt that way, especially when Ilia Topuria decided to leave the division. This is his weight class, and frankly, I still think he's got a few more championship defenses successfully in him, depending on the opponent. I have no reason to doubt him. I think he is still the man.
Yeah, so that perfectly goes into my next question, which is what's next for the championship slot taken by Alexander Volkanovski. Before the event, it seemed pretty predetermined that Movsar Evloev would be the next man up, but with the performance that Yair Rodriguez had and all the mic work he was doing leading up to Saturday night, it seems like these two are kind of head to head in that race. Yair Rodriguez, I know we don't put too much weight into the UFC rankings, but he's now above Movsar in that. So, Scott, let's go with you again. What do you think about this sort of horse race that's going on between Yair and Movsar for that slot?
Look, there's an appealing option that Yair himself presented, him against Alexander Volkanovski in Mexico in September. There's certainly appeal there. You can market that. I don't know if it's going to be that much more competitive than it was the last time. And frankly, I always lean into the sporting aspect of MMA a little more than the promotional aspect. I would really like to see Movsar Evloev finally get his fight. I mean, frankly, the guy beat Diego Lopez in Lopez's debut. Realistically, from that perspective, he should have gotten the shot first. He didn't. Why? We've got to put this to bed. Give Movsar Evloev his shot.
Yeah, I mean, Mozart Yuvaliev is definitely the guy, right? Like, he definitely should be next. He's done everything that he could possibly do. I just, my issue with that is that the UFC seems kind of iffy on him as like a draw, right? Like, he fought Aljamain Sterling on the prelims of a card, which made no sense, right? And I even tweeted at that time, Aljamain Sterling versus Mozart Yuvaliev might be the best prelim fight of all time. Just like in terms of like ranking, but putting him on a prelim really says to me that they're to have him go from a prelim to a main event, not that short of a time span is a little tough for me. So from that perspective, I'm a little iffy on having him headline a card, but Volkanovski's got the name value and is able to like kind of boost that up. Um, you know, at featherweight, there's a lot of options. We have a newcomer now, Aaron Pico. Very excited for him. Obviously, he's not going to jump to a title shot immediately, but there's a lot that can go into featherweight right now. John Silva, how far off is John Silva from a title shot? Obviously, again, assuming Volkanovski isn't injured, you have to have him come up here and fight again at some point. September was talked about against Yair Rodriguez. Not too interested in that fight. I'd say Evloev around that time period, maybe August, and then you go from there. And then there's a lot of other contenders. There's like I said, Pico. There's John Silva. There's a lot going on at featherweight. I'm actually really excited. I think it's one of the best divisions in the UFC.
You can do interesting things though with Yair Rodriguez outside of this championship fight. You put him against Diego Lopez. They already planted the seeds in the last week. Why not do that fight? It makes like all hordes of sense. You could put that in Mexico. I think that'd be fun, even though they're both ties to Mexico. I think people would love to watch that. There's a lot of heat there, and it makes so much sense from that perspective. Realistically, Lopez had such a good performance that if he goes out there and he beats Yair, especially impressively, a rematch wouldn't necessarily be that crazy against Alexander Volkanovski.
Refresh
I
my,
agree. I agree.
refresh my memory. Is that a pay-per-view card or is that a fight night?
I believe that's the pay-per-view, if I'm not
The
mistaken.
pay-per. Yeah, so I would love to see that as like the co-main event of the card. Yair versus Diego Lopez. That'd be so fun as a co-main event. And I hate the idea of like putting like two title fights have to be on every pay-per-view. That co-main event's amazing. Like same thing with like Paddy Pimblett, Michael Chandler. Great co-main event. I would like to see that be the second fight. You could do other stuff with like a second title fight. You could do anything you want with those. But you have a really good co-main event like we did this past weekend. I hope to see more of that in the future. Diego Lopez, Yair Rodriguez's box office. Make that a co-main event.
So I love that we're talking about this because Eric, you and I had mentioned this sort of beginning of this saga before the press conference that happened on Thursday night that hadn't happened yet at the time that we were recording. And after I saw the press conference, I thought that Yair is just an absolute genius from a promotional standpoint. First off, if Diego had won the title, he may well have won himself a title shot. But before that Saturday night featherweight championship happened, really in the four permutations of how that fight was going to go, the only one in which I don't think it would have made any sense for Yair and Diego to fight is, of course, if Diego had won and Yair had lost. All those other permutations, I think it makes all the sense in the world. One of them did happen. I don't think that Diego Lopez's loss, like Scott said, I don't think that that drops his stock much. Yair had this amazing performance, and I think that it makes all the sense in the world for the two of them to fight. And from a bad blood standpoint, I feel like that sells a fight just about as good as anything else, probably even more than merit, as we saw in the Jean Silva Bryce Mitchell fight. So one thing that I do want to ask you guys, let's start with Scott again. What do you think is next for Jean Silva? I know he's calling for that title shot, but with finish after finish after finish, I mean, this guy's absolutely on fire. What do you think makes sense for him?
It's definitely too soon for the title shot. I think we all know that. I think we can all agree that that's perfectly fine if he gets at least one more fight. Frankly, in a stacked division like this, two fights makes sense as well. I'm going with, and I like this matchup here, Jean Silva against Arnold Allen. I think that is fireworks. I think we can love that fight. If Arnold Allen wins that, realistically, no reason to think he shouldn't be on the doorstep of a title shot as well. So I think you put real stakes in that fight. Arnold Allen's not a young fighter anymore, but he's still on the younger side and untested at the championship level. You can create a fresh fight either way, no matter who wins. I like that one a lot.
Eric, what do
I
you think?
You're fighting. I raise you a fight. I like Leron Murphy versus John Silva, two strikers. And I think I think there's
Another
good.
Brit.
Yeah, another Brit and a good chance for a finish. I think that that is the goal. Is and same thing with Arnold Allen. Not to say that one's better than the other, but my thought immediately went to Leroy Murphy. But I like the Arnold Allen call out as well. I think that either of those two fighters, and that gets you right there.
You know what I like for Lerone Murphy actually is I like him and Aljamain Sterling. I think that would be an interesting thing to do with Sterling because he's in kind of a little bit of a no man's land. He lost to Evloev, who frankly that was a like not the most uncompetitive fight, and the guy's going to get a title shot off of that. So I like testing Lerone Murphy against somebody who has already had a championship at a different weight class. I think that's a good thing to do with both of them. It's not a bad idea to go your way, but if we go my way, that would be my suggestion.
Fair.
I like them both. I like them both. Also, on Saturday night, we saw Michael Chandler get kind of brutalized by Paddy Pimblett in that co-main event. Paddy, a lot of doubters throughout his career, thinking he's not ready or would never make it to a, say, top 10 or top 5 spot. And it seems like he's right there. Eric, I know Paddy's one of your favorite fighters. What did you make of that performance? And off of that, what do you think is next for him? He called out 4 guys, pretty much everyone that was ahead of him in that division. So, yeah, what do you think's next?
Paddy Pimblett's body looked, I mean, like he looked so strong. He definitely did some serious weightlifting for this fight. He was veiny and like his like shoulders specifically were really just bulging out almost. I was really impressed with the you could tell he took his body more seriously, and I know people joke about Paddy's body all the time about how he, the way he cuts weight and he balloons up after a fight and then he cuts back down, and like people have joked that he has like eating disorder or whatever.
Paddy Pimblett, as they said.
Yeah, Fatty Pimblett. Yeah. So like that's been a big joke, but I would say that his body just looked fantastic in this fight, and I was super impressed. Like even when I saw him in the octagon, I was like, "Whoa!" Like I always had even said that Patty should be maybe be fighting at 145, but he has really grown up into that 155 weight division, and he is no. I mean, that's crazy now to even say, but he is a 155er, true and true, super legit for that division. His striking looked really good. He's a mega star now. I mean, he's probably top 3 biggest star in the UFC right now, and it's pretty wild to even be able to say that. Now, for what's next, I know he called out a bunch of guys, and you know, some fights get him closer to the title shot. I would say I'd rather just see the UFC book him in a higher profile bout rather than get him immediately a title shot. So like he could fight Gaethje and like be like the co-main event of a card, or he could fight like Ilia Topuria or Conor McGregor and be the main event of a big card in like Europe. So for me, I understand that that would probably get some pushback from a lot of people, but for me. I think that those two fights are the fights to make. I would do Ilya or I would do Conor McGregor. Look, Conor's 36. He has been partying like crazy. He has tons of legal issues in Ireland. The guy needs to get it together. It's either going to be this year or never. So we have maybe 12 more months to talk about him as a fighter. He's 36, going on 37, partying way too much, getting in too much legal trouble in Ireland. In a dream world, in a fantasy world, Paddy versus Connor, Paddy versus Ilya. That's the fight.
Scott, what do you
Conor
think about
McGregor is
that?
not walking through that door. I'm going to go with the 4 names that he threw out there because, frankly, if you're talking about him as one of the 3 biggest names in the UFC right now, which it's hard to disagree, and he calls out 4 names, he probably gets one of those 4 names. Arman Tsarukyan, Charles Oliveira, Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje. Any of them makes sense enough to me, but I'm going to go with Arman Tsarukyan. I'm going hard to the top with this guy. I think if you can, it solves 2 problems, right? Because Arman Tsarukyan, what do you do with him? He's already proven he's the #1 contender, but they're not going to give him the next fight because he couldn't make the weight the last time they were trying to do it. This solves it. You put him in there against the biggest star. If Arman can beat Paddy Pimblett, okay, now he's established. You got to put him in the next title fight. But if Paddy comes in there and beats him, now you've got your biggest star as the most qualified #1 lightweight contender in the world. Has to get the championship fight. Erases all the doubts in the world, makes him look like such a world beater. I think it's the perfect solution.
Who do you think would be favored in that fight, Arman or Paddy?
I would still favor Armin, but it's a lot different than I used to. I have grown in my appreciation for what Paddy Pimblett has become. I did not have the highest opinion. I thought he was a little too much hype. He's growing into that hype, and he's proving that he belongs at this level. But having said that, he still needs to get a win over someone who's really in their prime. I would like to see that, and that's what I think this is.
I see like the thought on like the him not being like fighting guys that aren't in their prime. I just feel like having him, he'll be a pretty big underdog against Arman, who's just mostly. Again, it's like the UFC wants finishes. Arman Sarukian is never going for finishes. He's always looking to grapple. I would say of the four people he listed, he'd probably be the lowest on my list in my opinion. I would say that of the four people listed, I'd say Gaethje would probably be my top choice. Just me.
I don't think you can go wrong, but I'm sticking with what I got. What do you think, Jake?
So I actually I agree with Eric, but more from if I was in Paddy's shoes. I think any one of these four. I mean, let's be honest. The UFC loves Paddy Pimblett. If he gets through any one of these four, he's getting a title shot. I think that Gaethje is the path of least resistance, albeit there would be some asterisks afterwards, kind of like you were talking about before. Like he's only faced guys that are maybe on the tail end of their career, right?
His
But
biggest wins are against those. Yeah.
yes, yeah, his biggest wins, of course. I that's who I would pick if I was Paddy. Who do I think makes the most sense, though? I would agree that Arman does make the most sense. He's an extremely talented fighter. He's going to need a fight. He wants a fight. He knows he's not next for that title shot. From what the UFC and Dana White has said, obviously things can change. There's a whole bunch of jumbling around at 155 with Ilia Topuria in there, which also, Eric, I do like that shout, but I'm not sure how much Ilya is gonna do that. Maybe once Ilya becomes champion, or if he does become champion. Sorry, excuse me. Not a foregone conclusion. If Ilya does become champion, I think we can all agree that that would probably be the biggest fight for him outside of Islam Makhachev, of course. So yeah, that's where I stand on that one. Do you guys have any other thoughts on Paddy Pimblett?
No, honestly, I'm thinking more about Michael Chandler at this point.
Yeah, well, so that's another thing. I mean, I was looking through the lightweight rankings, and I mean he's fought the who's who in that division at this point. I'm not sure exactly what's next, but I'm hoping if you guys have any guidance on what do you think would make the most sense for him. Scott, I remember you said that you had some strong opinions on this one.
I do. Yeah, frankly, like we said, he's struggling. 5 of 6 losses in his last 6 fights. Excuse me. And like I said, Conor McGregor. I don't think if he keep waiting around for his prom date to show up, but he's gonna still be at the parents' house waiting. I don't think that's happening here. The title window has closed. I think we all know that. There is nothing left for Michael Chandler to prove at this level. If he'd come over sooner, it might have looked a little different. We are where we are. If he insists on fighting, and frankly, I'm okay with him not, but I'm not going to tell him the guy's got to retire. He's so fun to watch still. You always have a good time. I know, especially you, Jake. You're always up for a Mike Chandler fight. If he's got to come back, here's a fun one I'm going to put out there for you. The winner of Benoit Saint Denis and Joel Alvarez next month at UFC
That's a
315.
good shout.
I like the winner of that one, which frankly I would lean toward Benoit Saint Denis being the preferred opponent because it's going to be a much more fun fight. But we'll see what comes out of that.
Look, Scott, if you're trying to get the guy killed, I mean, Jesus. I mean, those are two killers. Like he can't take that kind of damage. Joel Alvarez and Benoit Saint Denis are two of the most violent guys in the sport. Michael Chandler fighting those guys, man. When you're watching the fight, I don't know if you guys were watching the corner work. Henry Hoof was talking to Michael Chandler. Even after the first round, Henry Hoof was frustrated. After his first round, he was like, "Michael, we have trained this. We have talked about this. You have to throw punches. You're throwing one at a time. He's like, use your training. We've actually trained." So it seems like there's frustration in the corner as well with the team as well. You saw Robbie Lawler in the corner as well, trying to coach him up, and it seemed like Michael Chandler kind of wasn't listening. So I think when you get to that point where your fighter is pretty much tuning you out and not listening to advice at all, it's a really bad spot to be in. So I think there's only one fight for him. I'm going to grab the mic here and Conor McGregor. That's it. That's all he can do. He can only fight Conor McGregor. That's it. There's not a whole lot else there. When you go through the rankings, it's all just like there's a lot of squash matches there. I think Alvarez versus Benoit Saint Denis is a squash match. Max Holloway, like if you really wanted to, like I don't know, You could try Max Holloway at 155, just because they're two big names. But um, Michael
You're talking about
Chandler,
Max Holloway's gonna jab him to death. He'll hit him to the body. He'd crush his body
I think
apart. I don't
Holloway's
know that
also
that's much
booked
better than
for.
Benoit Saint-Denis.
I think Holloway is also probably going to be booked for Poirier. No,
that's what it sounds
yeah.
like. But for me, it's the Saint Denis elbows and the ground and pound from Saint Denis, and then the elbows from Alvarez. Like,
But
oh,
I
dude,
don't know.
his
If
face is so brutalized against Pimblett, it'll be so much worse against Alvarez.
Saint Denis coming off of two knockout losses, or was it a in between
Could be
rounds
three.
doctor stoppage?
How about we go the loser of Alvarez versus Saint Denis gets Chandler.
I
Not a terrible idea either, frankly. I actually don't hate that.
Yeah,
yeah,
the
but
winner is too much.
I think that's a great shout, Scott. So we'll see
Yeah.
what happens for Michael Chandler, hoping to bounce back. But you know who did bounce back and has been bouncing back is Dominic Reyes, the goat killer, as some people call him. Obviously referencing that very close decision against John Jones back in the day. 3 wins in a row. I mean, from what I'm hearing and what seems to kind of be the consensus is he really only might need one more win to make it to that title picture. The question is, can he do it? Scott, do you think that Dominic Reyes could hold gold again?
Well, he never held gold,
Or sorry,
but he got
excuse me.
close. Like we said,
Here,
like we said.
let me.
Will he
But
be?
it,
No, no, no.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. Don't worry. Everyone gets you. Everyone gets you. All good.
Okay.
But frankly, I'm gonna say no. I just don't think he can get to that next level. But you know what? These are big guys. If he lands hands before the other guy lands hands, all bets are off. You just never know when the big guys are throwing. And he does have some undeniable talent. I just worry about, hey, what's going to happen when the wrong person touches hands on him. And I don't know what his path is either too. And frankly, is he going to fight his former training partner Alex Pereira if he was to get to that range anyway? I don't know where their relationship is with that. They probably would fight, frankly, because they're not training together anymore. Um, but I do think the level of difficulty is going to get just a bit harder. We hadn't seen Nikita Krylov in a while. He came back and he took a loss. So I don't know what that really says about him. When he gets to that next level, this is a different test for, again, that chin that we saw a lot of holes in. So I'm not sure that it's in the cards for him, but it's a good story, and frankly, I wouldn't hate to see it.
I mean, it would be so fun to watch. Now, I'd say he's not even one fight away. Like the light heavyweight division's like low key kind of like stagnant right now because it's Ankalaev versus Pereira is probably going to hold up the division for a little while until that fight happens again. And if it doesn't happen again, then maybe Yuri Prohaska. But like when you look at like the division, it's kind of held up in a way where it's like Dominic Reyes would have to probably fight one more time and then sit out for like a year in order for all this other stuff to happen ahead of him. So I don't know. I mean, Reyes could do that, right? But if I were to say like if he were to fight like he should fight later this year, right? So like say he fights like summer, maybe late summer. Carlos Ulberg, maybe
I think that's the one that
I
makes the
don't hate
most
that,
sense. Yeah.
that would get him
and that would
somewhere.
be a big test of the chin for sure.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So Dominic Reyes, Carlos Ulberg, see how that goes. That would get him closer, but I still think he's probably at least one more fight away. You'd have to fight Prohaska or Pereira, or if if assuming Ankalaev is still the champ around that. And if Ankalaev loses the belt, then that complicates things further for Reyes and puts him further away from title shot. So, will he touch gold ever? Probably not. But yeah, it's a fun story. I love watching him. I mean, he's looked amazing.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, we always love a good comeback story, so we'll see how things go for Dominic Reyes. So that just about wraps up UFC 314. Looking ahead to UFC 316 in our neck of the woods, really more your neck of the woods being a New Jersey resident, Scott. We got some news this week about the ticket sales. Eric, would you care to run us through what some of those numbers look like?
Yeah, so we're all going to be there over in Newark, New Jersey for UFC 316. Tickets go on sale general public on Friday. Ticket prices are steep, 574 to get in over in Newark, New Jersey. I mean, it's a big time card. You know, you got the Sugar Show coming into to New Jersey, which will be a good time. And yeah, but just steep prices. The WWE fans, and I know UFC and WWE under the same umbrella with TKO. UFC fans have been complaining about ticket prices for events recently, and seems like the UFC prices are really, really jumping here quite a bit. 574 to get in. You know, a couple people even reached out to me. I was like, this is more expensive than the MSG card, which had John Jones on it. And I was like, yeah, it looks like you might have you probably got value on that MSG card. So tough spot for some of the fans. Good card. It's not even fully filled out yet, but you know that the top two fights are going to be interesting. So you know, where do we go from here? You know, it'll be an interesting card over at 314, but the ticket prices are pricey. I don't know, Scott, if you had any thoughts.
Well, I mean, I just to double check what it was last year when they came to our neck of the woods at Prudential Center. NewYorkPost.com had an article up a few days before the event, kind of talking about the ticket prices, and they were saying that at the time the cheapest ticket available was $315 on the secondary market. So, if that helps kind of gauge what you might be able to wait for, probably a little bit more expensive than even that. And no guarantees, of course, as it goes. But listen, I went to one of the earliest Prudential Center cards from the UFC. This was the first event I ever attended as a fan. UFC 111. It was George St. Pierre defending against Dan Hardy when Dan Hardy just wouldn't tap to that armbar. I paid to get in the door there, probably somewhere in the $100 range, and I looked it up in the Wayback Machine. You could get in the building for $50.
That's insane. Yeah, I mean,
15 years ago, but neither way, it's just, oh man, the inflation of that. They've definitely priced out, I think, most of the average fan, except for the ones who are they're literally just hoarding their money so they can go to this is our thing this year.
yeah, I mean, for me, I feel like obviously that's a pretty steep price. And coming from my perspective, I feel like my age group, the 18 to 30 age range, I feel like is a huge market for the UFC. A lot of kids coming out of college, are a huge part of their market, and I don't see myself or any of my circle being able to justify paying that much amount of money for it. So I don't know. For me, the only people that I know that have gone and paid for these events, it was like some sort of favor or a friend of a friend where they were able to work something out. But yeah, I don't know. It's just pretty damn steep.
One thing to add is
Depressing.
that
It's
like
depressing.
one thing to add was that the ticket prices go on sale on Ticketmaster to the general public on Friday. Typically, those prices will go up from there. Usually, the tickets are, and I've done this because as a fan trying to go to big time events, a lot of tickets get bought out by bots on Ticketmaster, and then they get resold to the public at a higher price. So 574 might actually end up being the floor. I'm not sure, I'm not saying that it's 100% fact, but I've seen it happen before where the initial public pricing is the floor, and then it'll end up going up from there as bots buy up all the tickets. So
But it,
just to
it depends on the demand for this particular event too, because last year we had a pretty compelling main event with Islam Makhachev against Dustin Poirier. This year depends on how you view these two bantamweight title fights. The men's fight with Merab Dvalishvili against Sean O'Malley in the rematch, and then of course there's the other one which kind of has a little bit more potential juice behind it with Juliana Pena against Kayla Harrison. Now that the just announced UFC Hall of Famer Amanda Nunes says she wants to come back and fight the winner, preferably Kayla, but it sounds like she's open to both.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, absolutely.
So let's actually talk about that one a little bit more. As you said, this past weekend, Amanda Nunes it was announced that she would be inducted into the Hall of Fame, and she expressed as much interest as she pretty much could without outright saying this is definitely happening. She said she wants the winner of Pena versus Harrison, especially if it is Kayla Harrison, and I think the fans are kind of on board with that. The Kayla Harrison Amanda Nunes fight seems a little bit more intriguing considering the other two have already fought twice. But one question I do want to ask you is, with this Amanda Nunes situation kind of hovering over the fight, how much more interesting does it make it? Does this add more value to this co-main event for UFC 316? Eric, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I would say massive, right? I would say that's a massive add to the card because like even you could just have Amanda Nunes there and have her face off with, and I wish the UFC would do more of that, right? Like they used to do that all the time, and I think that it got a little weird with Dricus du Plessis and Israel Adesanya. Maybe it was like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. A lot of weird things that they were saying in the octagon then, but I would like to see more of like the face-offs at the end of the fight. Like if Kayla Harrison like beats the brakes off of Juliana Pena, gets on the mic, says Amanda Nunes, I'm coming for you. Amanda Nunes comes into the octagon, they face off, they square off, whatever. Like one of the best ones ever was Brock Lesnar and Daniel Cormier. I know that fight never happened, but that face off was unbelievable. So like that was worth the price of admission alone. Like that was so fun. So I'd like to see more of that. I hope the UFC does it. And yeah, I mean, I'm so excited for that fight. Amanda Nunes versus Kayla Harrison definitely could headline a pay-per-view. I would say that Juliana Pena and Amanda Nunes could probably also.
Oh, easily. I mean, no matter what, this is so much more juice behind this fight than okay, it's now just a title fight between, the best, the champion and the clear number one contender who's been a star in the making of the sport for years outside. It now has this extra dimension of okay, now we get to have kind of the best of the best final tournament, the real belt, as Amanda likes to talk about it. She's been talking about it that way. She referred to it again on Saturday. You can't help but get much more intrigued by this fight with Amanda hovering over it, 100%.
Yeah, I agree with the two of you. The way that I phrased it to Eric an episode or two ago was that this is kind of like the appetizer, or for you, Scott, being in Italian, the antipasto, and that just seems like the Amanda fight is sort of the main course meal. And keep in mind, this appetizer isn't just, breadsticks. It's like buffalo wings. It could be a whole meal on its own, but that Amanda Nunes fight, I mean, man.
Calamari, maybe getting me hungry here.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna have to eat some food after the show. But yeah, no, I think that it absolutely adds all the value in the world. So that wraps up our sort of look ahead at UFC 316. Looking ahead to this weekend, we do not have any UFC events, but we do have the continuation of the PFL tournaments. We got the middleweight and lightweights fighting this Friday night. Scott, what do you like?
Honestly, these are much better weight classes than we had last week. It's a much more compelling event. I think middleweight, realistically, there's a good five names who could come out of this one and wouldn't really surprise me. But I think that the main event here, Impa Kasanganay against Fabian Edwards, I think the winner of that one really ought to generate the odds-on favorite to win it, whoever comes out of this one. So there's some real clear, interesting stakes at play here. My sleeper, I would say, is Dalton Ross to come out of the middleweight division. And then over on the lightweight side, I like Gaji Rabadanov to repeat. I mean, he won a season last year. This is a tournament, but I like him to come out of the lightweight one. But again, there's some other names here as well. And my sleeper at this weight class is J.J. Wilson. What do you think, Eric? Where do you stand with some of these weight classes here?
Well, I'm super into the JJ Wilson thing as we'll talk about in a minute here. But for me, I'm big on JJ Wilson. Ibuka Saganai obviously is a UFC vet. He's been in the game for a long time. Aaron Jeffrey was contender series fight Kyle Borhalo, and Aaron Jeffrey fought, and that was an interesting fight. Aaron Jeffrey needs to work on his takedown defense. Hopefully, he's gotten that figured out. His striking's really good. Yeah, I mean, I would say, like I talked about Aaron Jeffrey. I like Aaron Jeffrey. Mads Burnell has obviously been a vet in the game for a long time. JJ Wilson's my sleeper as well for 155. I'm expecting a lot of improvement from him. 25 going on 20. Last time we saw him was when he was 25. Now he's 27. So I think he has a good opportunity here to move forward and be a contender at 155. But yeah, fights to watch. What do you got, Scott?
I like Sada Busi against Dalton Rosta. Again, my sleeper at this weight class. Sada Busi, honestly, he's very hit or miss. Sometimes it is not very interesting because he can be a bit of a counter striker, but sometimes he is absolutely explosive. So there's going to be some tension here, and I'm curious to see how this plays out. I like that. What about you?
Ross a high upside guy, so I totally can see that as a good one to watch. Again, I got JJ Wilson and Mads Burnell. Mads Burnell I was a big fan of back when he was in the UFC. You guys remember that front choke against Arnold Allen that he took. But for me, I'll JJ Wilson versus Mads Burnell. It's one of my bets as well for the fight, which we'll get into. And then, but yeah, that's my fight to watch. Yeah,
And a side note too, we need to get Johnny Eblin a fight. He's not in this
yeah.
middleweight tournament. He is beyond the need to be in that. But oh my goodness, get him a fight. He's got to be fighting, and I want something new. I want to see that sometime soon.
Amen.
Totally.
Amen. Alrighty, to go right back to you, Scott. We've got your event rating. No UFC, just PFL. Like I said before, what's this PFL rating?
So this one, it's a 17. So we're talking about something that's kind of in the range of a pretty solid to the maybe higher end of UFC Apex cards. So what that says to you is, hey, if you're happy to tune in to anything that the UFC puts on the weekend, and you like something that's like, hey, one of maybe their better ones that they put in the warehouse, then this is totally on par. There's a lot of talent here. I don't think this is an event you should be skipping. I think you should definitely watch it.
Alrighty, so to round out this weekend, we got our man Erich Richter, the betting aficionado, with the segment 3 bets, 3 minutes. Eric, you ready?
Always ready. Always ready for 3 bets in 3 minutes. We're doing PFL here, a little bit different, but still fights to bet on, and Friday's card should be interesting. So we'll start off with the main event. We're going to start off with Impa Kasaganai versus Fabian Edwards. Impa Kasaganai, we know him from the UFC. He was, kind of mixed in the UFC. He lost by first round knockout to Carlston Harris, who's obviously on the receiving end of the Joaquin Buckley super kick to the head. But since then, he's actually gotten a lot better. Importantly, he's gotten better with his takedown defense. He's gotten better with his striking defense as well. He's always had crazy power in his hands. Now, I would expect Fabian Edwards will, take a little bit more of a measured approach here. He's going to go with the volume striking. He might even go mix in a takedown or two, just to keep Impa off balance. But for me, I'm going to take Impa here on the money line. It's not super sexy, minus 135. Now, at the time of recording here, there's no method of victory props being released by any book yet. So, you have to bear with me here. I can't take any long shots. But for the second fight, I'm going to go Aaron Jeffrey. You might remember Aaron Jeffrey from the Contender Series. He fought Kyle Barallo back on the Contender Series and had a pretty good showing here. He fights Murad Ramazanov. Ramazanov is a very good takedown specialist. Aaron Jeffries had problems with this in the past. Kai Barallo took him down a bunch of times. Wasn't really able to control him too much. But Jeffries got really good striking. He can and he's KO'd Austin Vanderford in the past. He beat Douglas Lima by decision. He had a pretty good fight against Barallo as well. He lost 29-28 unanimous decision. But I'm going to take the mullet. Aaron Jeffries got the mullet here. He's a plus 180 underdog. I'm going to take him to win this one on the money line, so you get the knockout or decision here. But I think that he's improved enough in the takedown defense, and I think his striking leaps better than Ramazanov. For the third fight, J.J. Wilson versus Mads Burnell. We talked about this already. A big layoff here for Wilson. He was 25 the last time they fought. He's now 27. He had a grappling match against Aljamain Sterling. We actually looked pretty good. And Aljamain Sterling is one of the best grapplers at that weight class. So for me, I'm going to take here J.J. Wilson. Again, there's no method of victory props. J.J. Wilson's a minus 220 favorite, but he's a very good grappler. Mads Burnell also, I mean, you remember the front choke against Arnold Allen, one of the nastiest submissions we've seen in the UFC. I'll take J.J. Wilson here to win by submission. Burnell's been submitted 3 times. He has 9 submission wins as well. But he does leave his neck out there for when he goes for takedowns, and I think Wilson here gets it done here by submission. I'm going to project the odds here. I'm not sure exactly what they're going to be released at, but I'd say plus 300 is probably a fair number to expect here. But give me J.J. Wilson. Those are your 3 bets in 3 minutes.
Alrighty, thank you for that, Eric. So that rounds out this week or this weekend coming up Friday night. Some other news items from the last time that we saw each other. Eric, there's a pretty big thing going on with the UFC media rights. What's happening?
Get your popcorn ready. I had said April 15th was the date to circle if the ESPN and UFC did not come to a deal. They didn't come to a deal. It's now April 17th. Still no deal for the UFC and their their broadcasting partner. There's no deal between ESPN and UFC. ESPN's CEO Jimmy Pitaro did an interview with Sports Business Journal saying don't pay too much attention to that date expiring. It'll be interesting to see how it goes. We'll have more on that in the future, but for now, right now, the news is that the bidding war, and get your popcorn ready, and the popcorn's here, and the bidding war has begun, so to speak.
Beyond that, we also got a fight date move. Gilbert Burns, who was supposed to be taking on Michael Morales in Quebec, in Montreal, that fight has been pushed to May 17th in the warehouse. So love that. And then the UFC has also announced that they are going to Baku, Azerbaijan, June 21st, headlined by Khalil Roundtree and Jamal Hill. So that's it for quick hits. Scott, you're here to give me a homework assignment and review the last one, finally.
It's nice to be back for this part. I've enjoyed listening to you guys kind of break down. So I've been technically assigning a lot of these in absentia, but here I am. We actually get to talk about this fight that we just watched: Fedor Emelianenko, Kevin Randleman, the monster. What did you think of this fight, Jake? I really want to know because it's known for very particular thing from Pride in 2004, and I want to know what you thought of it.
Well, the thing that I noticed first is Kevin Randleman absolutely slamming Fedor on his head. I mean, he went straight for the takedown. Fedor kind of goes for that guillotine. We see that all the time. And then it was just a full-on suplex coming from Kevin.
Giant suplex.
Yeah, yeah. I think, what do they call it? A German suplex or something? It was
Right on his head.
right on his head. And yeah, that was absolutely insane to see. That should have knocked anyone else out just from the sheer impact of your head on the canvas. Your neck's probably not feeling too great after that. Fedor's on his back, reverses out of the position, and he just snatches up that Kimura like a boss. So I understand.
All in like 95 seconds,
yeah,
too.
That's an important thing to note. This wasn't a very long homework assignment, so if you didn't do your homework, go ahead and watch that fight. It does not take any time at all. Would highly
It's a
recommend
whirlwind.
it.
It's so much fun. You got to go watch if you didn't.
Yes.
The next thing for you, I've got, I had toyed with one thing, but I actually ended up pivoting in a different direction. I'm giving you Clay Guida against Diego the Dream Sanchez, UFC Ultimate Fighter finale number 9, back in June 2009, the day after I met my would-be wife, funny enough.
All right.
And there were some stakes to this fight too. This was a 3-round main event, and the winner was expected to get the title shot against BJ Penn. So there's a lot on the line here. I think you're gonna have fun watching it.
Alrighty, sounds good to me. And then what happened this week in MMA?
This week in MMA, we're gonna go all the way back to April 19, 2014. This was the event when Derek Lewis made his UFC debut, curtain jerker on a UFC Fox card, but he ended up TKOing Jack May. That was the start of his eventual UFC record run of knockouts. So hey, shout out to the 11 years of the beast.
There we go. Yes, sir. Alrighty, I think that just about rounds it out. Scott, it's a pleasure to have you back to see that wonderful face again. Eric, as always. Guys, we good?
Yeah,
Good.
I'm great. Appreciate you guys, and enjoy the PFL card. And we'll be back next week. Talk more UFC. Ian Gary versus Carlos Paredes coming up next.
Praches.
All right, cut it.